Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to my cousin's garage. It's great to have you guys here. I'm back in New Hampshire to tackle another day working on his Supra build. So today we actually got the engine stand finally unboxed. So hopefully once we piece it all together, we're gonna be removing this automatic transmission from the 2JZ engine we purchased in order to mount it to that stand. So to clarify, we will be replacing this with the 6-speed manual transmission that my cousin purchased, which is sitting all the way back there. Okay, so we got the engine stand put back together, and now we're going to be tackling the removal of the automatic transmission. So now that we're removing the transmission with everything out of a vehicle, it's easier to kind of see what bolts we're going to be working with. So the first thing that needs to be done is to disconnect pretty much all the wiring to the starter motor. The bolts to the starter motor are right here. You can also remove all the various electrical connectors. There's a couple on the driver's side of the transmission here, and then on the other side, there's also one connector here. There are also transmission cooler lines that go all the way towards the front of the car. These hoses eventually attach to the bottom of the radiator. So we're just pretty much gonna have to disconnect the bracketry in order to free the hose from the motor. So lastly, there are also bolts that attach the torque converter to the flywheel. In order to get access to those, you gotta pull this access port right here, and you'll see the individual bolts that are on the flywheel. And by removing those, you free the physical torque converter from the flywheel. And then once the perimeter bolts are undone, the whole transmission should just pull right off. Basically, we have a 22mm socket on top of the crank bolt, and we've been turning the engine over in order to get access to the bolts underneath that connects the torque converter to the flywheel. So the challenge is to hold that ratchet still so the flywheel doesn't turn on me while I'm trying to loosen the bolts connecting the torque converter. So we would turn the motor to where we need the bolts to rest, and then we would adjust the ratchet down and then lock it in place, because depending on the setting of the rotation on the ratchet, that handle is now locked onto that pallet board as we're trying to undo the bolts on the bottom, so that essentially we don't have to leverage it with our own strength. We got the bolts removed connecting the torque converter, put them into a baggie. He's going to label them real quick, trying to stay organized. Now we'll take off these bolts, remove the flywheel, and then we should be able to mount the engine now on the engine stand. And then we actually purchased these extra long bolts that have the same thread pattern as the 17mm bolts that come off the bell housing, so that we can actually have enough length in order to safely bolt to the pegs on the engine stand. Okay, so we ended up taking the top bracketry off of the engine stand to mount it to the block first. This was the only orientation we found that it fit initially, based on the fact that this is a Harbor Freight engine hoist. There's not much maneuverability here. Basically, the way we have this all mounted, we're a little bit concerned that it's going to be top heavy, but this was the only way we really found this plate and stand arms to fit on the block. But now we have it raised up with the engine hoist, and because we mounted it onto the block first, it should be really easy to slide it back into place into the stand to support it. Nice. There we go. All right, dude.
All right.
This thing is so high up. Like, stand next to it, Eddie. It's gonna be very nice to work on the sides, though. Yeah, eye level. All right, guys. So we didn't want to end the video there. This is another day, and we are actually here now to purchase a 10,000 pound lift for Eddie's garage. So this is a rotary lift. It is a 2-post lift, and we are picking it up for $800, which is amazing. So basically we took apart the entire top bar assembly. We left all the hoses attached and all the cylinders attached just to try to minimize taking apart any of the fluid system. Just don't want anything to leak out here. But we got one pillar taken down. You definitely would want at least 3 to 4 people just to kind of lower this down because it does get really heavy. We actually took off the top bar first and then unbolted a bunch of things on the actual top sleeve here in order to slide it up in order to take the hose out so we have a bunch of slack. The next challenge we're facing right now is just figuring out a way to safely, one, take the legs off, and then figuring out a way to just prep it to load up into the U-Haul trailer that we rented out. Okay, 1 hour later, we have both posts of the lift loaded up into the trailer. Took a little bit of some technique to get it onto the actual ramps and up there, but not too bad, not too bad. A big thank you to Paul. Appreciate it. It's nice meeting you.
You bet.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Good job, boys.
All right, so now we gotta go from Westford, Mass, all the way back to New Hampshire, and then hopefully with the 3 of us, we're gonna be able to unload the actual posts, and then we're gonna figure out mounting the actual pillars another week. We're wrapping things up here. We cleaned out the garage and left some space so that the Supra can probably pull back in. We did it.
Thank you, Win. Appreciate it.
I guess just to give another dry run, a real quick overview of what we did. We ended up just taking apart the top section here. We ended up having to cut 2 of the studs in the front because that way it would kind of prevent the legs from kicking out upon tilting the entire tower down. Then we just disconnected one of the hoses so that we could slowly bring each pillar one by one after we unbolted them from the bottom. And then after that, we were able to actually knock out the big pins that held the arms in place because we noticed that it was pretty hard to get them out while they were standing up. So you can see the pins right there. And in order for us to load it up onto the truck and such, we were able to jack up the pillar onto a dolly. And then with a bit of brute strength, we were able to just pull it up the ramp and then haul it back down. So what, you're gonna be going to work now in the U-Haul?
Oh yeah.
So we hope you guys enjoyed the content, seeing the engine being mounted on the stand and also picking up a brand new lift for his garage. I'm looking forward to the next couple weeks because we're pretty much gonna start tearing into the motor now. But regardless, we'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.